Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on marketing operations best practices for creative production. My name is Susie Fountain, and I am a Senior Customer Success Manager at Intelligence Bank. And joining me today is John Ryan, our VP of Marketing, who will be taking us through today's demonstration towards the end of the session. So just a bit of background, Intelligence Bank is a cloud-based marketing operations platform, which is why we're talking about today's topic. Our solutions include digital asset management, which is a brand management platform called Brand Hub, creative templates, and a marketing operations or MRM platform for managing teams and projects. What makes Intelligence Bank different is that our focus is on both efficiency and compliance in a world where demand for creative content is exploding, along with an increasing focus on brand and regulatory compliance. The latest Forrester Wave for Marketing Resource Management, or MRM, had Intelligence Bank positioned as a contender with the highest possible scores for content production processes, brand compliance, and content integration criteria. Today, we'll be sharing our best practices learned from hundreds of customer implementations, as well as how we manage marketing operations within Intelligence Bank. So for today's agenda, we'll start by discussing what is marketing operations and why is it so important. We'll share our best practices, and John will give a demonstration of those best practices in action. Like, as I mentioned, we'll end with some time for questions. So getting into it, what is marketing operations and why do 93% of marketers say that marketing operations function is an important or critical factor in delivering digital transformation? So marketing operations is where the people, the processes, and the tech come together in the execution of creative production and campaigns. The people are the ones with the skills and the expertise to make it all happen. This may include marketing managers, analysts, designers, content writers, SEO experts, brand experts, sometimes agencies, and a host of other people. The role of marketing operations here is really to help our people hit their goals and their deadlines while working reasonable human hours. Ensuring that the right people are performing the right tasks is critical, and we're going to achieve that with processes and frameworks. To avoid chaos and confusion, marketing operations needs to map the needs and priorities of the business to the team's expertise. I think we all know that even with the best strategy, it's probably not going to do great without well-defined process. So robust processes ensure the flow of work runs smoothly from ideation and creation through to execution. These processes or frameworks are at the heart of your company's marketing operations, and they can help your team be more efficient at every stage of a marketing campaign. However, if just one step in the process falls through, it can impact the overall success of the campaign. Great processes and framework help keep creative projects on track and prevent mistakes from being made, particularly brand and legal compliance mistakes. Lastly, we have tech, which is how most teams these days manage their processes to keep everything running smoothly. Marketing operations can be challenging to implement. However, with the help of the right tools, you can create, manage, and track every step effectively. This tech stack may include project management tools, DAMs or digital asset management tools, website CMS, social media platforms, analytics tools, and a host of other things. Your team is probably also going to be using creative tools like the Adobe Suite, video editing software, document editors. As marketing operations experts, our role likely won't have us in those creative tools on the day-to-day, but it does involve us understanding how those platforms work and how data and assets flow through them. So we can help our teams streamline their workflows by configuring and possibly integrating different platforms together. So in short, successful marketing operations requires an in-depth understanding of the tech stack in order to map and configure streamlined processes that help people achieve their targets. So that's what marketing operations is all about. So let's dive into our best practices and how to make marketing operations work for you. Best practice number one is to start with a clear marketing strategy and align your briefs to that strategy. A study by the Better Briefs Project research company found that 80% of marketers thought they were submitting good briefs, yet only 10% of agencies agreed. The research concluded that 90% of marketers failed to brief agencies effectively, and that failure begins with a lack of clear strategy. This gap translated to over a third of marketing budgets being wasted on bad briefs, or to put that in dollars, $200 billion in wasted ad spend. So at Intelligence Bank, we recommend using 3 types of briefs at the core of your operations: master briefs, campaign briefs, and task briefs. The master briefs set up the goals, strategy, and budget for a campaign. When they're approved, teams can then create sub-campaigns and tasks, which they'll have the flexibility to change as required, with locked-in goals and strategies and resources. Your master briefs should outline the overall value proposition that you're trying to communicate, your target audience, budgets, resources required, deadlines, desired outcomes, and supporting proof statements, like what can we say to credibly make that claim? If this is done well and it aligns with business goals and budget, it will make the creative process so much easier. It's best practice here to reject or decline master brief submissions early on, which may seem counterintuitive. However, it's especially important if the brief requires more information or the idea does not align with strategy or budget. Rejecting more master briefs early on simply means that you won't be wasting money and resources creating ideas or assets that were never going to be used because they don't fit with the strategy. Our clients love to tell us that they're having a higher decline rate of master briefs because it usually results in significantly higher approval rates for subsequent asset approvals and projects out the door. So this means more work is getting out the door faster with a lot less waste in the process. So creating great master brief forms and keep declining those ideas is a really great way to stick with that strategy. Once you have an approved master brief, we recommend a campaign brief that would live underneath it. If your master brief outlines the idea, the campaign brief outlines the different campaigns required to execute that idea. For example, your campaign might run across different channels such as website, social, print, TV, and each of those channels would be a different campaign with different goals and activities required. Finally, we have our task briefs. These are where the actions required are defined. Task briefs need to clearly outline what needs to be done, by whom, when, and with what resources. With Intelligence Bank, you can link your task briefs back to every campaign, and you can link your campaign briefs back to their master briefs, ensuring that all campaigns and tasks are aligned with that initial strategy. Best practice number 2 is to make it easy for your teams to stay brand compliant. 80% of marketing teams say their work was subject to at least one type of brand or industry requirement, such as FINRA, ADA, FDA, SEC, GDPR, the whole alphabet worth of regulations. This is especially true for highly regulated industries. So the onus is really on marketing operations to set up frameworks and workflows to ensure compliance for brand and legal is followed. Keeping an eye on the brand and keeping everyone on brand starts by using online brand guidelines. It is not marketing operations' role to define the brand guidelines, but it is part of their responsibility to ensure that everyone has access to these rules and that there are processes in place to ensure these rules are followed. Online brand guidelines give marketing ops the ability to ensure everyone is always accessing the most up-to-date brand guidelines in a way that's easy to manage. Marketing ops also have the power to control who has access to those guidelines, those assets, and who doesn't. In the past, assets and guidelines were usually shared by email, which isn't very secure, but now we can set up processes to remove access from users or agencies that no longer need to get to them. We recommend that marketing operations set up processes and workflows to ensure that the guidelines are followed and that there is accountability. This could be something as simple as having a checkbox on your form for the submitter to confirm that the latest guidelines were followed. Or if more governance and oversight is required, an approval workflow can be set up so that a brand expert can confirm that the work is brand compliant. Finally, marketing operations is responsible for ensuring that only brand approved assets are available to your wider teams. Your company assets are going to change over time, and you don't want your team accessing assets from expired campaigns. To avoid penalties for usage violations, we recommend you store assets in a digital asset management or DAM platform, and that you configure that platform so it's clear what assets have expired, what assets will soon be expiring, and also prevent those expired assets from being accessible. Marketing operations needs to keep an eye on this information and ensure that that expiry information is always on those assets and easily available. Best practice number 3 really focuses on task management. So 62% of managers say that they are losing their workdays on work about work. We think a good marketing operations platform will make their lives easier, not harder. And managing projects is a lot easier when everything is trackable. Within Intelligence Bank, you are able to track everything about your briefs, making task management really easy. So every task brief should include a description, who's responsible for it, and ideally a deadline or due date. With this information, you can provide visibility and coordinate across your teams and individuals. A great way to do this is using Kanban boards, which allow you to do agile marketing and run sprints with the classic sort of to-do, doing, and done system. This is also really good for focusing on priorities. You can also leverage your Kanban view to break out tasks by individual, making it easier for them to prioritize and see what is most important and focus on those tasks. Calendar views are also excellent for getting a sense of when everything is due and if you're on target. It will also make it clear if there are conflicts on deadlines and resources and how things are tracking. Best practice number 4 is process management. 83% of their teams feel that their teams aren't as efficient as they could be due to not having the right processes in place. One area that is ripe for optimization within marketing operations processes is proofing and approval for the creative production. So Intelligence Bank is a fully fledged proofing and approvals platform that enables creatives to upload their work directly into the briefs for collaboration, comments, markups, and finally approvals. This streamlines the entire process and keeps everything in one place and out of your inbox. We make it easy for approvers to compare versions, reply to comments, and resolve ones that have been completed. And of course, they're able to track the creative that was approved, by who, and when. At the end of it, approved assets can then easily be pushed into the DAM where they're accessible to the broader team. Some of our clients have saved huge amounts of time by analyzing their approval data and optimizing their process. So they have looked at things like time to approval, which approvers are taking the longest to approve creative, causing bottlenecks in the production process. It's also interesting to look at things like the number of revisions that were submitted and using that to motivate people to provide better feedback early on rather than waiting until the end when the work is due. A brand or marketing inbox is another great process that we recommend using. Rather than having the business request marketing help via email, you're able to get them to do that through a form on your marketing operations platform. This is great because requests immediately become tasks that are transparent and visible to everyone and don't get buried in a fairly full inbox. Your forms can also be designed to ensure that you're capturing the requirements that you need, gently forcing the business to give you better briefs of what they want and why they need it. Requests such as, I need a logo, really can't be actioned without clearer information. So having a marketing inbox and form can save you a lot of that frustration of having to go back and follow up to get that information. Finally, you can also set up these forms to automate some of your requests, removing a lot of that repetitive work. Creative templates are another great way to speed up process management. So creative templates are brand-approved templates that enable non-marketers, such as branches, satellite offices, or franchises, to localize creative content without requiring design skills or resources. Brand templates are really about saving money instead of using agencies to do high volume, low value job designs, things like changing a phone number, changing a logo, as well as brand compliance. Everyone on their team will have access to what they need, and marketing can focus on other areas that drive more value. Many of our customers also create their own disclaimer engines, which automatically create disclaimers at the start of every project, rather than scrambling to get it done at the end. If you're a designer, you can probably agree, it's a lot better to design your work knowing what the required disclaimer is, rather than having to fit it in once you've got that design finalized. Many of our customers also build in risk management checks into their processes. This includes things like staged approvals for compliance or legal, which are only triggered when specific criteria is selected. Things like a new product or TV advertising campaign with a high budget, preventing costly mistakes. We also recommend you set up risk scores, which can be used to calculate both risk level and likelihood. This gives you a quick view of what projects need to keep a closer eye. Best practice number 5 focuses on digital asset management, or DAMs. Digital assets are exploding, and just like how retail needs inventory management systems to manage their inventory, marketers need DAMs to manage their thousands or sometimes hundreds of thousands of assets. The cost of not doing this properly is really high. According to Accenture, 90% of marketing material is never put to use because it is either not relevant, out of date, or not accessible. Most organizations could become a lot more efficient at reusing or repurposing their assets that they've already spent good time and money on if they knew that they had them. At Intelligence Bank, we talk a lot about DAM, And we recently did a webinar on DAM best practices, so we're not going to go into those points in detail here. What I will say is that a good DAM will save you time and money by making things easier to find, easier to share, and giving you a single source of truth. They'll help you better organize your content, ensure that only up-to-date content is available to the business, improving brand compliance. They'll allow you to control who has access to what assets, protecting sensitive information and minimizing risks. And finally, they also allow you to measure content effectiveness. Into best practice number 6, we're going to be looking at Martech management. As we mentioned towards the beginning, a core part of the marketing operations role is administering the tech that manages the people and the processes. And every good platform is going to offer a lot of information on how you can do that. Business processes change and people change too, which means there's constant maintenance, updating, and optimizing to do. So very simply put, it's important to learn your tools. And a great way to maximize your tech stack efficiency is to analyze the data that you're getting from each tool. Some reports we really highly recommend your marketing operations team look at to help you optimize their process include things like approval rates, times to approval, and seeing where the bottlenecks are. Are there approvals pending or things sitting and waiting? Number of revisions to help identify poor briefs or lazy feedback. Declined briefs, who wasn't writing good briefs, and help train the team. Expiring assets to see what those are and making sure that you're not violating usage rates. Asset usage reports to understand what assets are being used and requested and what are not. Public sharing usage to see which assets are publicly accessible and how often they're being accessed. Login reports to understand who is and who isn't using the system. And of course, the one we all love, audit trails. If you are in marketing operations, you want to be able to quickly see who approved what and when. And hopefully you're never in a problem where you need to do this urgently and quickly. But to be on the safe side, it's really handy to have these reports at your fingertips. It's the role of marketing operations to integrate the Martech stack as tightly as possible. The reality is there's no one single marketing platform that does everything. So Martech really includes marketing operations platforms, brand management platforms, and DAMs. It's also going to include CRMs, website CMS platforms, and content creation tools. And integrating all of these platforms is really going to save your team time and improve your brand compliance. At Intelligence Bank, Forrester gave us top scores for content integration because we're able to connect your DAM to the content creation tools that are used every day. This eliminates a lot of downloading assets to the desktop, re-uploading them into another application, only to save them there and then go back and upload them to the DAM. With our connectors, you're able to do that much more seamlessly. We also have handshakes, which can automate processes between tools. For example, you can trigger an alert in a Slack channel when a new request is submitted. Or you can push assets that are finished in a frame.io instance into a folder in the DAM. Or you can create a set of tasks when a specific campaign type is selected. We're constantly working on ways to integrate our digital asset management platform with the tools that people use every day. Best practice number 7 is really all about people management. People are your most valuable asset, and their value increases when they're well-trained at using the Martech stack and following the processes. So some questions to consider here are you able to track your team's activities? Are they well-trained in the platforms? And do they understand and follow the process? This best practice really comes down to training and communication. You'll know when your team is well-trained when they're doing their own self-service reporting and proactively monitoring feedback for themselves. So that is our best practices for marketing operations for creative production. I'm going to hand it over to John here to lead us through a demo of these best practices in action.
Thank you, Susie. Intelligence Bank is a marketing operations platform that can help you manage your marketing teams, your tasks, your processes, your brand, and your assets too. And in this demonstration, I'm going to be a marketing operations officer. I'm going to be managing a global product launch, so I want to see everything that's going on. And I'm working with multiple teams and agencies. I'm just going to give you a very quick overview of Intelligence Bank. Then we're going to see what's happening with our teams. And then we're going to work through specific workflows that Susie mentioned in those best practices. So this is the Intelligence Bank homepage. Our clients typically customize this page to reflect their brand and their brand styles. And it can be configured to look differently for different types of users as well. So for example, if you're an agency, you may see different options than if you're in marketing or if you're a non-marketing user. It's very easy to access anything you need here, whether it be your brand guidelines or your briefs or your DAM asset libraries or those creative templates or approvals. It's all set up for you. So I just want to quickly touch on the brand guidelines. This area would typically replace those typical PDF brand guidelines that we were all familiar with. And everything that you would have in those brand guidelines you can have here, except it's interactive. So as you can see, we've got all of our logo rules, the do's and don'ts. But when the designer actually knows what they're after, they're able to just access that asset immediately. Now, what's great about this is that all of these assets are connected directly to the DAM. So if we open up our DAM, we can actually see that we've got all of our assets that live here. We've categorized these into folders. However, with Intelligence Bank's metadata layer and search, it's really, really easy to find anything that you're looking for. And within this DAM environment, we're able to download or share assets. We're able to transform assets as well. And it's got a very powerful metadata layer, version control. So that's a very brief overview. Let's start talking about marketing operations though, as it related to the best practices that we talked about. So starting with those briefs, we have a brief area in this demonstration. And these are the three briefs that Susie mentioned, which was the master brief, the campaign brief, and the task brief. There can be other briefs as well, such as disclaimer engines, but these are the three that we're going to focus on. So if I wanted to get a global view of everything that's happening, I would just open up our master briefs. So these are the master projects. And this is a calendar view of when those are happening. I'm just going to change that to a card view. So I can see here that I think we've got 11 different master briefs that are currently in play. And if we're to drill down into one of these master briefs, we're able to see the information that Susie mentioned we would want to have in a master brief. And we've broken these down into different sections. So this first section sort of includes dates and locations. And here is our business case. And the important takeaway here is the types of questions that we're asking, which include background and business problem, campaign intent and customer needs, target audience and commercial opportunity, as well as the estimate investment. And because this estimate investment is actually greater than $50,000, and Intelligence Bank has smart forms, what this has done is it's automatically flagged that because it's greater than $50,000, it's going to need an approval by a senior manager. So we can actually build in like these types of risk management triggers into our briefs. Speaking of approvals, there is an approval area, so we can clearly see who and when this brief was approved by both marketing and legal. And we also have a master brief hub. And all of the campaigns that live within this master campaign hub are accessible and visible here. For example, in this particular master brief, we have 4 campaigns that live underneath it. There's an online campaign and a few others. And I can see what channels these campaigns are going to go out. I can see who the owners are, when they'll be in and out of market as well. And these campaigns will have tasks underneath it. And if you wanted to, you could also have these pulling up to the master brief as well as connecting them to those disclaimer engines. So that's the master brief. Next, I'm just going to drill down into one of the sub campaigns. I could access this for a number of different areas, but it is connected. So I'll just open it directly from the master brief. And here you can see there's different information that we're tracking here. This campaign brief is going to look at, who's working on the campaign, including if there's any agencies. And then we're tracking all of the specific individual tasks that need to happen for this campaign to be executed. So the next level down is we're getting to the tasks. So if I just drill down into a task, again, you can see there's different questions that we're asking. In this one, it's the status, it's the owner, and it's also the date due. And this is going to allow us to do project management with these tasks. So that's a quick introduction to briefs. What's great about it is that everything's linked together. So your tasks are linking back to your campaigns, which are linking back to your master briefs. So we can be sure that everything that we're working on is actually in line with our strategy. Next thing that we want to do is look at how we can now manage these tasks within the team. I typically do that using a Kanban board. So this is our task Kanban board. And this first view that you're seeing here is more of a traditional Kanban view, which is you're not started, in progress, completed. It's very easy to use. As the team have completed a project, they can do it within the task, or they can just drag things across and say, yes, that's done. Also, I'm able to reprioritize certain tasks for them to say this one's more important. And this is sort of the one view that, when we do our, say, weekly sprints, we rely on this view heavily. However, another view that I also really like to look at is the priorities by person. And this can be super useful. When you're doing creative work, it's really hard to work on 5 projects at once. So this allows me to really help them prioritize, do this one, then this one, then this one. Another way to manage this is via our calendar view. And this will help me see the information on different dates. So we've currently got this sorted by request due date, and we can see, when the different projects are meant to be due. I can change this. If it was estimated completion date, we can then see if they align. So as you can see, we're tracking everything. We can visualize it in our Kanban boards and our calendars. We can drill down. Everything's linking back to those briefs. So the next thing that we want to do is we're going to run through some workflows. We're just going to start with a proofing and approval workflow. So this particular one is due today, which was an online banner. So let's just drill down into that. So this is a task that has gone across to a designer. And in this task, they've actually uploaded the asset into the task. So again, everything is linked together. So it's not going by email or FTP server. And here I can see that this is currently pending, which means it's actually waiting for approval. So if we look at this workflow, it's so easy to use. I would just review this request, and I'm in our proofing area. And what's great about this is we're able to do different types of comments to the designer. So I can see that there's a request here to change the color, and it's very easy to talk to different people, and they will receive an alert. I can also highlight different areas. If we're going to give a designer suggestions, we can make very specific in terms of what we're talking about, whether it be, drawing freestyle or writing directly onto the text. So really, really easy to make notes. This also applies for videos. If you're doing video editing, you'd be able to do it to the specific frame. Now, this is actually revision 3. So it's due today, but we're actually on our 3rd different revision. In terms of our different revisions, we can see that we've had different feedback along the way. And if we look as an approver, these comments, we can actually see that journey in terms of how this particular banner has changed over time with all of those notes. It's super powerful. I can actually see that the designer has ticked off that these things have been done. And then lastly, there is our approval area. If we are happy with this work and it is ready to approve, we can do that. It's very, very easy. Same thing goes with if declining, if we have to decline it. So let's just submit that response. And this asset has now been approved. Our designer will be notified that that's the case. And when we go back to our task, we can actually see that within this, it has been approved, and we even know that the time to approval was 10 hours. And just finally, what the next step would be that we would actually now take this asset and then publish it somewhere to the DAM, either a folder which only a few people could access, or in some cases, the rest of the organization. So we just went through proofing and approval workflow, super easy. It's all connected to the briefs, which are all connected to each other all the way up to the strategy. Just while we're on approvals, Intelligence Bank does have an approval center. In this approval center, we can see everything, and we can filter between dates or who the approvers are, requesters, reviewers, or status. But essentially here we can see everything that's happening with our approvals. In terms of marketing ops, we recommend that you check this daily. We can see the different types of approvals, like if it's an asset approval, or in some cases, if it's looking for approval for those master briefs. We have the ability to go and mark up those comments from this area, or even reassign who the approvers are, which can be pretty useful if someone, say, goes on leaves or they're just not responding to that approval. We can action those immediately. So the next bit I'd like to show you is just another workflow. We're going to look at our marketing inbox. So in this particular demo, we've built out a help center for the rest of the organization. And what we're trying to do is encourage that organization to make all of their requests via this platform. In this area, you can search or find the brand guidelines or contact the brand team. We even have FAQs. The main bit I want to show you here is our marketing request area. And again, this is using smart forms. So you could build this out to fit your business logic. But what we're trying to do is get better requirements, give people who are requesting us better briefs to actually give us the information that they need. In this particular example, it might be a logo request or a branded asset or a project status update. And by using smart forms, if I was to select logo requests, we can have additional questions appear. So we can actually force the person making that request to give us that extra information of, I actually want the horizontal color logo. And that is really, really useful information, much better than getting an email and then you have to go back to them or give them a call. And you can lose days working that way. Plus, once this brief is submitted, it becomes trackable to everyone. So it's much, much better way of doing everything. Now, last thing I want to show you is just the dashboards. Intelligence Bank dashboards are really, really handy. And again, the idea is in your marketing ops is that you scan through these on a very regular basis to find out the important information. So I won't go into too much detail here, but if I was looking at our DAM dashboard, I can instantly see we've got a couple of assets expiring soon, and this asset has recently expired. If I was looking at our brand area, I'd be able to see that we've got 3 logo requests or 3 pending templates, and I can see exactly what they are, and I can drill down in this area as well. If I was looking at our designer dashboard, we might look at the designer workload or overdue tasks or stalled tasks. And this particular dashboard for marketing operations, we can look at what campaigns are starting soon, tasks overdue, as well as predicted versus actual spend. So that's it for a quick demonstration. What we've done, we've given you a quick overview of the guidelines and the asset library. We've talked about those briefs. We've shown how you can manage all of those projects using Kanban boards and calendars. We went through a proofing and approval demonstration and also showed you the marketing inbox and the demo.
All right. So as John mentioned, that was our demo of the marketing operations best practices. So just going to kind of speak to and recap the best practices that we've covered. So the first will be the marketing briefs and creating a really clear questions to capture the information that you need. Second is brand management. Third is task management. The fourth really looks at process management and setting up streamlined frameworks. Fifth looks at asset management. Then we go into Martech management. And finally, and possibly the most important, is people management. So I want to thank everyone for joining today. Of course, this was a very high-level overview. We covered a lot of ground. So if you would like a personalized demonstration of anything we showed today, if you have any other questions or want to go into more detail, please let us know. You're welcome to contact your Intelligence Bank account manager or CSM if you are a customer already. Or if you are new to Intelligence Bank, you can message us at sales@intelligencebank.com or complete one of the forms on our website. So this brings us to the end of today's session. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today and hope that you found the content helpful and educational. From everyone at Intelligence Bank, we do wish you all the best on your marketing operations journey.